Hey there, and welcome to the Divorce Planner Podcast. I'm your host, divorce prep coach Alex Beatty. This is week one of my summer series, where over the next 4 weeks, I'm walking you through some of my signature coaching frameworks. These are the tools I share with clients in every possible stage of divorce every single day. Today's episode might be one that hits close to home. You might have heard the phrase, quiet quitting your marriage. That phrase really puts a name on something that a lot of people experience right before deciding divorce is what's next. Specifically, when you've emotionally checked out of your marriage because it's no longer working. But I want to talk about what's actually happening underneath it. Because quiet quitting sounds almost intentional, strategic even. But what I see with my clients is something quieter and slower than that. I call it the slow fade. If that phrase made your nervous system jump a little, stay with me, because there's a good chance you already know exactly what I'm talking about, but you might not know what to do next. Let's dive in. When I ask new clients how long they've been thinking about divorce, I've had more than one say something like, honestly, years. Not months, years. They've been living in a kind of limbo for a long time, still physically in the marriage, still going through the motions, but emotionally, they left a while ago. They just didn't have a word for it. That's what being in the slow fade looks like. It doesn't happen overnight. It's not one dramatic moment or a single blowout fight. It's gradual, almost undetectable at first. And that's what makes it so disorienting, because from the outside, your life looks completely fine. But on the inside, what you're feeling or not, that's a whole different story. So I'm going to describe what the slow fade actually looks like, and then you can kind of assess whether or not it sounds like something that you're experiencing. The slow fade is when you've stopped trying to have conversations with your spouse about things in your relationship that aren't working or going well, because you've talked about it so many times before and nothing ever changes. So you think to yourself, why should I bring up the same thing again when I know exactly how this conversation's going to go and nothing's going to change after anyway? The slow fade can present itself in a few ways, like you feel more like roommates than partners. Things are polite, functional, but really empty. It looks like sitting in therapy or talking to your closest friend and realizing that what you're saying is painting a picture of a marriage that you would never want someone you love to stay in. And sometimes it looks like feeling more relief than sadness at the idea of possibly being alone. It isn't dramatic. It doesn't feel like it's a crisis. It's just quiet and slow, and it can go on for years. Here's what I've learned working with clients who are in this place. The slow fade almost always happens after a long period of trying. You tried to communicate. You suggested therapy. You advocated for your needs. You made yourself vulnerable. And you said the hard things. But somewhere along the way, maybe through dismissal, through defensiveness, through the same circular argument you had 100 times, you finally got the message that things were just not going to change. So you stopped trying. Not because you gave up on yourself, but because you finally ran out of the energy to keep trying to change someone or change a situation on your own. The emotional withdrawal of the slow fade isn't apathy. It's really self-protection. It's what happens when you've been knocking on a door that was never going to open. But here's the reality. The slow fade is not a solution. It's a signal. When you've emotionally checked out of a marriage, your psyche is actually doing something important. It's protecting you from a situation your gut already knows isn't working. But that quiet inner voice, the one that's been getting a little louder every year, it isn't something to silence. It's something to listen to. If you've listened to the show before or followed me on social media, you know I'm always talking about the emotional side of divorce and the business side. The slow fade lives almost entirely on the emotional side. It's your internal self catching up to a reality that your external self isn't ready to acknowledge yet. Here's what the slow fade is actually telling you. First, something needs to change, whether that's the marriage itself or your relationship to the marriage. Staying in the slow fade indefinitely is not neutral. It's a choice, and it costs you. Second, you deserve to make a conscious choice. The slow fade can keep you in limbo for months or years because it doesn't require you to decide anything. But not deciding is still a decision. It just means your circumstances, your spouse, or time itself ends up making the decision for you. And third, you cannot pour from an empty cup. The women I work with who've been in the slow fade for a long time all describe the same thing. They don't feel like a fully realized version of themselves, not just in their marriage, but in almost every area of their life. We'll be back after a quick break. Hey, it's Alex. If you're listening to this podcast, that means you're already investing in educating yourself about divorce, and that's huge. But here's the thing. Every divorce situation is unique. What works for one person might not be the right approach for you. That's why I offer a free 15-minute strategy call. On the call, we talk about your specific situation. No sales pitch, no pressure, just a conversation about where you are, what you're dealing with, and what your next steps could be. Whether you're just starting to think about divorce or you're already in the process, these 15 minutes will give you clarity on what to do next. Book your free call at www.thedivorceplanner.net/coaching, and it's also linked in the show notes. I totally get why staying in the slow fade can feel safer than making a decision. Maybe you're overwhelmed with young kids and struggling to keep everything together, or the idea that your marriage has possibly run its course puts you into a shutdown mode because of the domino effect it would have on your life. When everything is uncertain, staying still can feel like the reasonable choice, the easy choice, but staying has real costs, and they're easy to underestimate when you're in the thick of it. There's an emotional cost. Living in chronic disconnection, going through the motions of a life that doesn't reflect who you are and what you actually want, takes a toll that builds up quietly. It shows up as anxiety, exhaustion, numbness, a low-grade sadness you can't quite explain or shake. Then there's a financial cost. If divorce is eventually where you're headed, understanding your financial realities as early as possible is empowering. You could be using this time to build credit in your own name, understanding your assets and their value, tackling debts, and getting clear on how much money you actually have coming in and going out every month. The people who come to me the most financially unprepared are almost always the ones who spent years in the slow fade before they took any action. And then there's the time cost. This is the one that nobody talks about. The slow fade can quietly steal years of your life. So ask yourself, what am I waiting for? What would actually have to be different for me to be ready to make a choice? Here's a question I ask clients who are in this exact place. Do you really not know what you want? Or do you know and you just don't want to say it out loud? Sometimes what looks like uncertainty is really just fear. You know the answer and you've known for a while, but making it real, saying it out loud, taking action, all of that feels terrifying. So instead, you stay in the in-between. It's safer there, even when it's not better. And sometimes it can really be uncertainty. Maybe you love your spouse and feel like there are real things worth preserving, but you're just not sure if you're done or if things could change with the right work. Both are valid, but they call for different actions. If you're in genuine uncertainty, the work is really about getting honest with yourself, maybe with a therapist, couples therapy, or a coach, about what you actually want and need and whether this marriage can give it to you. But if you already know, then your work is about getting prepared, emotionally, practically, and financially, so that when you're ready to take those next steps, you're not starting from zero. If you're sitting in the slow fade as you listen to this and you're ready to get a little more clarity, here's what I want you to know. You don't have to have everything figured out. You just need to take one little step in a new direction. Preparing for a possible divorce is not committing to divorce. Preparing is about getting information so that if and when you're ready to make a decision, it's based on the actual relationship itself and not based on fear of the unknown. That's the thing that really keeps people stuck. Preparation empowers you with facts, which quiets that fear. Here are 3 actions to get started. Number 1, get honest about your finances. The money part is what usually keeps people stuck the longest. Do you know what's in your joint accounts? Do you have credit in your own name? Do you understand your household income and expenses? That kind of information is so important no matter what you decide. Number 2, start talking to someone, a therapist, a divorce coach, or a trusted friend who's going to give you honest feedback. The thing about the slow fade is that it thrives in isolation. Naming it out loud to someone who can help you think through everything is what breaks that spell. And 3, give yourself permission to get curious. You don't have to decide anything yet, but you're allowed to ask yourself some really hard questions like, what are my options? What would my ideal next chapter look like? And what does the possibility of being alone feel like? Here's what I want you to take away from today's episode. The slow fade is one of the most common things I see in my coaching practice, and it's one of the most misunderstood. Being in the slow fade is not weakness, it's not failure, and it's not something to be ashamed of. It's just information. It's your inner world telling you that something needs to change. And the most empowering thing you can do with that information is to stop waiting for circumstances to force your hand and instead start working towards choosing your life consciously, on your terms, in your own time, and with preparation that will serve you no matter what you decide. If you're sitting in the slow fade and you genuinely don't know whether you want to stay or go, in season 1, I sat down with midlife change expert Betsy Pig for an episode called Should I Stay or Go? It's one of the most honest conversations I've had on the show about this subject and how to make a decision. Go back and give that a listen. And if you're ready to ask yourself some hard questions, check out the episode Dear Future Self Letter from season 1. It's all about how to allow yourself to visualize what your future could look like after divorce. If this episode hit home and you're ready to figure out what your next steps are, book a free 15-minute strategy call with me. That's exactly what I'm here for. But no matter where you are in this process, be gentle with yourself. You're not behind, you're not broken, you're paying attention and educating yourself. And that's where everything starts. That's a wrap on today's episode. I hope you found it helpful. For more free resources, check out my blog at www.thedivorceplanner.net/blog. You'll find articles on how to emotionally and financially prepare for divorce, gain insights into the process from divorce experts, and empower yourself with tips and tools that make your divorce journey easier. And you can follow me on Instagram at the.divorce.planner, on Facebook at Divorce Prep, and on YouTube at The Divorce Planner for daily divorce prep tips and support. I'm Alex Beatty, and this has been the Divorce Planner Podcast. Until next time, remember, divorce is hard. Preparing for one doesn't have to be.